Welcome everyone to the closing ceremony of the 2021 International Population Conference. Bienvenue tout le monde à la cérémonie de clôture du Congrès international de la population. This is the 29th time that the IUSSP has organized such a conference since its founding over 93 years ago. Notwithstanding a few glitches, in my eyes, this conference has been a resounding success, a real accomplishment given the enormous challenges we and our partners had to overcome in its organization during this time of COVID. These challenges included devising ways to allow sessions to be constructed by both topic and authors' time zones, which required changes to the programming of Pampa, the software used for selecting studies to be presented, and profound changes to the work of the theme conveners who created the sessions. Addressing problems of internet connectivity that often afflict, cyber conferences, which required that workers record their presentations in advance. Assessing and selecting the two software platforms used to run the conference and the poster sessions, which ran, I remind you, over 5 22-hour days. Rethinking the format of the opening ceremony and several other aspects of the conference, transforming parts into special recorded videos, and seeking ways to facilitate networking in this online environment. And finally, encouraging universities and research centers to set up conference hubs to allow students, researchers, and faculty to watch the presentations together in locations with good internet connections, and then to discuss the findings of the studies. I do want to take the opportunity to remind everyone that the many excellent research presentations made over the past 5 days were all recorded. People unable to attend sessions due to time zone issues, competing commitments, or simply Zoom meeting fatigue will be able to view them in the upcoming weeks and months. And I know that some people plan on using their recordings already in their university classes. Thus, the attendance numbers that were shown when the sessions were ongoing certainly underestimate the number of people who will view and make use of the presentations. Like most of you, I'm sure, I do miss the on-site conferences of past years with their ease of informal exchanges and encounters with old friends and the cultural events. That said, being forced to transfer the conference online has acted to accelerate changes in how we organize and how we run our meetings, making use of advances in information technologies, rendering the presentations more accessible to people across the world, and reducing our environmental footprint. We also sought to broaden the appeal of the conference by providing more space for special invited sessions and keynote presentations, and also through our new attendee-only fee. While I am looking eagerly forward to the next IPC that will be held in Brisbane, Australia, most likely in late June or July, you can see a video on this at the Australian exhibit here. I do hope and expect that the IUSSP will build on the innovations and experiences gained here, and continue to seek ways to make our events as inclusive and environmentally sustainable as possible. Okay, this closing ceremony will have 4 parts. We'll start with the presentation of the IUSSP Mattei Dogan Award and the keynote speech of the winner, Bruno Schumacher. We will then pass on to the poster awards that will be given out by Bruno van Nimwegen, IUSSP Secretary General. There will then be some reflections and thanks by incoming IUSSP President Shireen Jujuboy. And we will end with a short video produced for this conference on the importance of our field and of the IUSSP. Okay, let's start with the IUSSP Mattei Dogan Award. This award was established in 2004 by the Mattei Dogan Foundation and the IUSSP to honor population scientists of high international renown for their contributions to population research that draws upon perspectives of different disciplines and for the importance that their work accords to international comparisons. It is bestowed upon mid-career scholars to honor research that has already been completed, but also to encourage them to continue pursuing their work. This award is granted once every 4 years at the IUSSP International Population Conference, where the awardee gives a keynote address. This year marks the 5th time that we bestow an IUSSP Mattei Dogan Award. This year we received 2 truly exceptional candidates for the award. It is my honor to announce that the 2021 Mattei Dogan Award goes to Professor Bruno Schumacher of the Université Catholique de Louvain Belgium. Personally, I have known Bruno for many years. I consider him to be one of the very best demographers in the world, someone who adeptly makes use of his superb technical skills to address issues of great scientific and policy importance, for the most part focusing on sub-Saharan Africa, but also on Europe, the Middle East, and the world as a whole. Congratulations, Bruno, for this recognition that you richly deserve. Okay, well, I'll now pause and we will listen to Bruno's keynote address on male fertility around the world and over time, on tapping untapped data for comparative fertility research.
Thank you. I think Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this presentation. First, I would like to thank the IUSSP and the Mattei Dogan Foundation for this award. I'm very honored. I would like to thank also my colleagues who wrote the letter, who signed the letter, and who believed it was worth doing. And I would also like to thank all the colleagues with whom I worked over the last 20-25 years for these valuable collaborations. When I received the letter from the IUSSP telling me that I was going to receive this award, I was very pleased. I was also very surprised, I must say. And then I read the letter and I saw I was invited to give a speech on a topic of my choice, and it took me a little while to decide on what I was going to talk. And finally, I decided to talk about male fertility around the world and over time, with a subtitle on tapping untapped data for comparative fertility research. And so in this presentation, I will present some of the work I did over the last few years on this topic, and I will also make some advocacy for more research on male fertility with existing data. So the background for this presentation is the sharp contrast between knowledge on male fertility and on female fertility, and in many countries, and especially in developing countries, even simple facts about male reproduction are not known. And well, data collection has focused to a large extent on female fertility, and this is part of the explanation for this lack of studies. And these methods were developed in a Western context with the assumption, maybe implicit assumption, that men and women had similar interests and behavior, but this tends to ignore the specificities of male fertility. And yet data is available and has been largely untapped. So maybe it's not as rich as we would like it to be, but it is available, even though we could do more, obviously. So this lack of research on men's fertility has been highlighted in several papers, and I show the title of some of them. Of course, this does not mean that there has been no research on men's fertility, and in fact there has been a lot of very interesting research, but maybe what is lacking is a broad picture or big picture of the patterns, the level and the determinants around the world, in a large number of countries at least, and over time. So in this presentation I will address a few questions and provide a few descriptive results mainly, and I will try to make the case for more research on this topic. So the first question is simply, can we measure age-specific fertility rates and determinants with existing data in the world, and especially in the developing countries? And the second question, which is related to the first one, is what are the levels and age patterns of male fertility around the world, and how different is it from female fertility, and why? And the next point is about changes. How has male fertility changed over time? Have changes been similar to changes among women? And what can we expect in the future for male fertility? And what do trends in male fertility say about fertility transitions? And should we use both male and female fertility trends to describe and to analyze fertility transitions? So part of what I'm going to say was published in these two papers. So here are the titles if you want to know more about that. So the first question is about measuring male age-specific fertility rates. And well, can we estimate these rates with existing data? In Western countries, that kind of information is published, including in the United Nations Demographic Yearbooks. It's not exhaustive, it's not always very detailed, but it's fairly widely available. In less developed countries or in the global south, we can use censuses and surveys, DHS mix, to estimate male age-specific fertility rates with different methods, and I will briefly show some results. And finally, it's also possible to use indirect approaches in some cases, and I will talk about it later. So this is the kind of data that is widely available in DHS mix or some censuses. And this is the household roster, and on each line we have information on the members of the household, and for each child age between 0 and 17 here we have information on the survival status of the father, and if the father lives in the household, it's possible to link the child to his or her father, and this makes it possible to obtain information on the father. So there are some difficulties in using these data for estimating male fertility, but it is possible to measure male age-specific fertility rates with that kind of data, and it is what is shown on this graph for Ghana. Another simple information available in some DHS surveys, not in all, is about the date of birth of the last child. With that simple questions, it's also possible to measure age-specific fertility rates, as it was shown by Carl Schmertmann, and I used that to compute male age-specific fertility rates in some countries, and it's not perfectly consistent with what we found with the own children method. It's a little bit lower, but the broad pattern is quite similar. And then there is a third type of question on the number of children ever born. And if we have that information at 2 points in time in 2 surveys, it's also possible to derive male age-specific fertility rates, also based on a method developed by Carl Schmertmann, the crisscross method, and I use that also in Ghana, and this is the blue curve. So we see that these 3 curves do not perfectly match, but they give basically the same pattern. And what is clear from comparisons on a large number of countries is that the own children method is really the most interesting, because it's widely available, it covers the largest age range, and it provides the most plausible estimates usually. And actually it's useful to estimate age pattern by 5-year age groups, but it's also possible in fact to measure age patterns by single ages and to reconstruct fertility trends by pooling several surveys, as it is shown here for Senegal, and I will come back to this later. So the own children method is really very useful in this context. The method based on the date of last birth is also quite interesting for the determinants of fertility, and for instance it's possible to compute male fertility rates by level of education, as in Niger, where there is almost 3 children difference between the less educated men and the more educated men, or by activity status, whether people work or not, as it is shown in Bolivia, and where we see that non-working men have a much lower fertility. And this is possible in a fairly large number of countries, but not in as many countries as with the own children method. So I used the own children method with other data sources to give a broad overview of levels and patterns of male fertility around the world. And actually, it's possible when we combine all the data sources to cover 163 countries. All the countries in blue are the Western countries, basically with data from civil registration systems. All the green countries are covered by surveys, and some countries are covered by censuses, or at least censuses provide information on male fertility. And what do we find? Well, that male fertility is globally much higher than female fertility, and this is especially the case in sub-Saharan Africa, where male fertility can reach 13 or almost 14 children per man, and it's especially high in Western Africa, where polygyny is frequent. We can compare male and female fertility, and this confirms that in some contexts, and especially in countries where fertility is still fairly high, male and female fertility are quite different. And this is what is shown here. We see for Senegal that male fertility is much higher. Actually, it's almost twice as high as female fertility, and it's also much later. Men have their children on average 15 years later than women. In Haiti, the situation is a little bit different. It's intermediate between what we find in Senegal and in Western countries, as in France, which is on this graph, where there is a difference in the age at which men and women have their children, but the overall fertility level is fairly similar. So the reproductive experiences of men and women in many countries are very different. This is what this shows. And we can compare the total fertility rate for men and women in all these countries, and this confirms that in many countries men's fertility is much higher than women's fertility, and sometimes twice as high, as I said. And actually in the Western countries, the levels are quite similar, but this is not what we find in the majority of countries actually. And these differences are to a large extent related to the differences at which men and women have their children, and the differences in numbers of men and women at these ages. So said briefly, in young populations with a rapid population growth, men will be much less numerous than women at ages at which they have their children, and this will influence the fertility rates and explain the large differences between men and women. And another question we can look at with these data is how has male fertility changed over time, and how can we expect it to change in the future, and how different are these trends from trends among women. And as I said, with the own children method, it's possible to reconstruct trends in male fertility for about 40, 50 years in many countries. And this is what these figures show. In Senegal, actually, it has changed, but not that much. It used to be between 12 and 14 children in the 1980s. It's currently around 10 children, and the difference between men and women has remained fairly large. In Ghana, in contrast, men's fertility has decreased quite fast, much faster than women's fertility, and this points to the fact that it may be interesting, it may be useful to use both men's fertility and women's fertility to describe fertility transitions. In Cambodia, it has also decreased quite fast among men. And I also show results for Denmark coming from the data by Dudel and Klusner. And here we see that differences are very small, and actually in the Western countries it's usually a little bit higher among women than among men. And in the future, what can we expect? And this is where indirect approaches come. It is quite easy actually to estimate total male fertility rates if the number of births has been projected, for instance, using female age-specific fertility rates. So here I use the projections by the United Nations Population Division. We have the number of births in the future, we have the number of men by age in the future, and with an assumption on the age pattern of male fertility, it is possible to estimate the total fertility rate for men. I did that for a few countries, and we see, for instance, for Senegal again, that men's fertility is much higher than women's fertility, as already discussed, and it will remain so probably, most probably, for several decades. In around 80 years, so by the end of the century, male and female fertility should be similar, but it will take quite some time before they converge. So I've briefly presented some results, and to conclude I would like to mention that existing data offer lots of opportunities to improve our knowledge of male fertility in a large number of countries, so to document levels, patterns, trends, determinants of men's fertility, differences in men's and women's fertility transitions, for instance, what does a faster male fertility transition indicate? It's possible to look also at questions that have been addressed in some countries, but look at them in a larger set of countries, such as differences in the effect of education, employment, economic crisis on male fertility and on women fertility. And I did not talk about questions such as entry into parenthood or fertility preferences, but these surveys, such as DHS, also provide very useful information on these topics. And finally, I would like to conclude by saying that sometimes simple questions can make a big difference, and I think it is worth thinking of a few questions that we could add in existing surveys to better document male fertility. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bruno. That was very interesting. I don't know if you would like to say anything else directly that you, over and beyond your presentation, your recording.
Well, as I said in the introduction of the video, I'm very honored, very pleased to receive this award. And I just wish to thank again all the people who worked for this and who suggested my name for this award. And thank you to everyone who is listening, and I would be happy to discuss later with anyone about this.
Okay, thank you. The next topic that we will be looking at is poster awards. So we will turn to Nico van Nemwegen, who with Susanne Kavanaghi, also an IUSSP council member, organized the poster competition and who will now present the poster award winners. Nico, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Tom. So hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce the poster competition of our conference. And as we all know, posters have long since earned their rightful place as a very important tool of science communication. And they are also an important part of our conferences. And as a matter of fact, we have a very nice tradition in the IUSSP to have a poster competition. So let me briefly walk you through what we have done and may I have the first slide, and there, that's the first one, and maybe now the second one. That goes already very fast. Okay, so let me walk you through what we have done. So at this conference, we had 23 poster sessions. They were spread over 5 days, and they totaled a number of 315 posters, which was a very good crop. The tradition is that we have a poster award for every conference day. So 5 best poster awards will be handed out today. And for that, we had 5 teams of poster judges, 1 for each conference day. And these teams of judges were composed of members of the current council, members of the future council, members of the National Organizing Committee, our Indian colleagues, and members of the Early Career Task Force of the IUSSP, and some more volunteers. All posters were viewed. Maybe the previous one, all posters were viewed and rated by multiple judges. So 2 judges looked at the posters in a session, made their choice, and then the whole team of judges for that day looked at the posters in a second step. And what did we look at? We had some criteria. You see what they are about on the slide. But what it boils down to is that for a good poster it's about good research, which is presented in a very good way. And visualization is, of course, an important part of that. The competition was coordinated, as Tom already said, by Susanna and me. But we had these 46 judges that did all the work, and we are very grateful for that. So may I have the next slide, please? So for the Monday team, here is the team of judges, and they evaluated the sessions P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. And for this day, the Monday day, the winner is, maybe at the next slide. The winner is Juliano Guerrero and colleagues, Carlos Ramirez Hernandez, Jose Wilches Gutierrez, and Lelio Arias Vizcaino. Sorry for my pronunciation of their names, but their poster is about the vulnerability level of spatial units and adolescent fertility in Colombia. And our congratulations go to them. And as we will see in other posters, a good poster is all about balance between content and visualization. Congratulations. Unfortunately, the winners could not be here today, otherwise we would have spotlighted them. But this will be done for the next poster, because here are the judges for the Tuesday team. This was led by Shireen Gigiboy, and you can see all their names there. And all juries reported that it was very difficult to judge the posters, as the quality was very good, and there were usually very close calls to decide on the winner. But the winner for the Tuesday team, for the Tuesday poster, is the next slide. It is Natalia Tumas and colleagues, and there are very many colleagues you can all see there. I won't read them all because I will just mungle up their names, but they did a very nice poster on Do Income Inequality and Women Empowerment Predict Obesity in Latin American Cities? And it's a very large team that contributed to the poster, but congratulations to all. And we were trying to show Natalia, the first author, in the video, but I don't think that will work. But anyway, our congratulations are very heartfelt. And maybe we should then continue to the poster.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there you are, Natalia. Congratulations. So then we should go to the poster judges for the Wednesday. And these judges did the posters P11 till P15. You see their names here, and also there it was a close call, and the quality of the posters was good. The winner, best poster for Wednesday, is the poster on trends in chronic child undernutrition in Bangladesh for small domains using Bayesian hierarchical time series modeling. And it is Sumankanti Das and Bernard Befour and Alice Richardson from the Australian National University. So congratulations to you. I think I'm, yeah, for the Australian National Union. My congratulations to you. And also Sumanti was probably not, Sumankanti was not here, but our congratulations again, heartfelt to them. A beautiful poster, and again, a very good balance of substance and visualization. So we go to the next day. The poster judges for the Thursday team were led by my co-organizer of the whole poster competition, Susanna Kavanaghi, and her team you see represented here. And again, they reported back that it was a very difficult choice, and the quality and had increased even. We had some longitudinal analysis increased as compared to a previous IUSSP conference. So the winner of the Thursday team is a poster, and we can have the next slide, is the poster Age Gap Between Spouses in South and Southeast Asia, and it's from Premchand Domaraju, and he is from Singapore. And again, a beautiful poster, and congratulations. Premchand is in the audience, so maybe we can see him here.
Yeah.
Okay, congrats, Premchand. Great poster. Yeah. Okay. And then we already go to the last day. We have the team for Friday, and this team was led by Edith Gray. And here you see her team members, and they did the sessions P21, P22, and P23. And the winner for the final day of the conference and the best poster award for Friday is this poster: Does Urban Land Expansion Affect Villages' Development? Geospatial study of 615 peri-urban villages of Gujarat, India. A beautiful poster, and the first author, Ankit Sikarwar, is also here in the audience, and we could also maybe show him on the screen, but congratulations to him and his fellow authors. And Ankit is currently at ENED. Is he in the audience? Yes, he should be. But if we can't find him that quickly, then we, okay, maybe we go to the next slide. Oh, you're there? Okay, Ankit, very, our congratulations for a beautiful poster for you and your colleagues.
Thank you, Nico, and IUSSP, all the members, thank you.
Great, great. So that's also my part, because we are going to the next slide, because that's a big thank you to all the presenters and all the participants in the poster sessions. All the 350 posters, of which the quality was overall was good to very good. A big thank you to all the poster judges who took some of their time running between sessions and judging the posters. And of course, the heartfelt congratulations of the entire council to the winners of the 2021 poster competition of the IUSSP. A big thank you, and I would like to say the applauding, the virtual applauding, but that doesn't work. But thank you very much, and over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Nico. A very interesting presentation. Okay, the last regular presentation will be made by Shireen Jujuboy, the incoming IUSSP president. While I will remain president through the end of this year, through the end of December, this presentation effectively represents the passing of the torch onto the next generation of leaders of the IUSSP. I just want to mention the end of her presentation is not the end of the session, so please hang on for a little bit longer. Shireen, the stage is yours.
Okay, I just switched my video on for a minute. I'm going to switch it off because my connection is a bit unstable, and I think I have a better chance if I switch off the video. Okay, so before I start. Okay, so it's a great honor for me to bring IPC 2021 to a close. Despite the shift to a virtual format, and despite being held under challenging circumstances, we have been treated to a wealth of new evidence covering some 26 critical themes affecting world populations. The evidence will undoubtedly inform national and global development, the achievement of the SDGs, and measures to build back better. Presentations have covered a vast canvas, They've drawn attention to the many adverse consequences of the pandemic across countries for human well-being. They've drawn out the growing challenges of population aging, the persisting concerns about the situation of children and youth, the important role played by migration and immigration across nations, the persisting gaps in meeting the sexual and reproductive health and rights of people, and the urgency of advancing human rights, women's empowerment, and gender equality. I attended several sessions. I was really impressed with the new insights, the robust methodologies, and the huge implications for policies and programs. As I look ahead, I believe the Union must build on the remarkable achievements that the new Council will inherit, while at the same time adapt to the changing needs that these last few years have necessitated. A few examples of what we might focus on and how we might provide services. Our data revolution work and other contributions to innovations to data and methods have been commendable and need to be pursued. Young demographers are our future, and IUSSP and its members have made major contributions to training students and early career researchers with cutting-edge methodological skills and scientific writing skills. We hope to continue these. Our urban family planning project is a model for efforts to build evidence on a challenging issue, support early career researchers, and at the same time build links to policy outreach. And this model can be replicated. Inequality and disadvantage continue to compromise population well-being. The list is long, and IUSSP has and can do a lot to enhance understanding and improve methodologies for doing so. COVID-19 has widened inequity across many domains. The climate crisis has huge implications for population. Hierarchical gender relations persist and continue to deny many their human rights. IUSSP has much to offer, and we need to be on the forefront of measuring and increasing understanding of these changes for population and offering direction for the future. How to translate the sound and insightful evidence we generate into programs and policy is a perennial problem researchers face, and the Union is no different. We must continue to find ways to communicate our evidence to a wide audience, and in particular, to bridge the gap between evidence generation and program implementation. On the how to provide services, we must continue to adapt our ways. Our online webinar format will likely continue for some panel seminars, for the laureate award ceremony, the General Assembly, and to some extent, council meetings. As Tom said, they're less costly, have a smaller environmental footprint, and facilitate wider audience participation. But the downside, as we have seen at this conference too, is Zoom fatigue. So the continuation of in-person meetings and a kind of a balance has to happen. Also, we would like to develop new ways for IUSSP members to become more involved in IUSSP activities. For example, opportunities for members to volunteer for some IUSSP activities. So do volunteer. For social media outreach, we look to our younger members to help us become more visible. And finally, we will also continue to make efforts to improve our website. In order to achieve our ambitious agenda, IUSSP must maintain and hopefully expand our membership. Membership fees help our activities, and the strength of our membership demonstrates our value. So a plea from us to please register if you're not a member, and if you are, maintain your membership and encourage your colleagues to join or remain members too. We are entering into a difficult budgetary period, as noted by Tom and Nico last month at the General Assembly. Many foundations seem less inclined to support organizations like ours, preferring to fund national or local groups in low and middle income countries. Government budgets are constrained. An important challenge for the next council will be to seek new sources of funds imaginatively. Less core funding and more project funding may be the way to go, or if not, sadly, finding ways of living with a tighter budget. It's now my pleasant duty to thank all those who have made IUSSP a thriving organization and have contributed to the success of this conference. Let me start by thanking our institutional partners, in particular the UNFPA and the Hewlett Foundation, our many sponsors and others who provided support to us over the years and at this conference. Continued support from INED, including for housing the IUSSP Secretariat in Paris, is much appreciated. We are most grateful to our partners, the Indian Association for the Study of Population, and in particular, Dr. Somayajulu, Dr. Subramaniam, and Mr. A.R. Nanda, for inviting us to hold this conference in Hyderabad and partnering with us so graciously as we shifted from in-person to virtual. Our warmest appreciation to abstract reviewers and theme conveners. You see them listed. You shouldered heavy workloads and knitted together a cohesive set of quality sessions. Thanks also to oral and poster presenters, chairs, and all participants for your enthusiasm and willingness to conform to new rules and for taking part so wholeheartedly in the proceedings. I do want to repeat our special recognition of the IUSSP Secretariat and the current Council. The huge amount of work conducted by the Union depends in large part on our very skilled and committed Secretariat, the very dedicated Council. Our able Executive Director, Mary Ellen Zupan, has not only managed the affairs of the Union and its large and growing portfolio of work, but enthusiastically took on the organization of the virtual IPC 2021. So too, thanks to her excellent team, Paul Monet, Deputy Executive Director, Peggy Galanter, Barbara Cassi, and Philip Migren. You should all feel proud of the success of this conference. Also, let me acknowledge our council colleagues. Our Secretary General, Nico van Nimwegen, has contributed in multiple ways to the direction IUSSP took over the last 4 years. So too, other members of the outgoing council have been called upon to bring their expertise to bear on the many activities of the Union. Thank you all for your remarkable dedication and hard work. It has been a privilege and a joy to work with you. Finally, I'd like to convey our deepest gratitude to our president, Tom Legrand, on behalf of both the Union and myself. We've had a very successful 4 years under Tom's leadership. His unflappable and constructive style has steered us imaginatively and tirelessly through these tough years. Tom, the achievements of the past 4 years and culminating in this IPC 2021 should make you very happy and very proud. Tom has served the Union for 16 years, and I know that you will continue to strongly support the Union in the years to come. I don't think Tom will ever retire from the Union. Thank you for your inspiring leadership and for what you have taught me personally over these last 4 years. It's clear that we demographers count and have the skills and passion to help change our world. We welcome your ideas on how the IUSSP can better serve our members and better maintain the Union's ability to respond on what matters. And now onward to Brisbane for IPC 2025. See you there, if not before. Tom? I think I can turn on my video now.
Thank you very much, Shireen. Okay, we have well, the last major thing we're going to do today is to show you a short video that some of you may have already seen that was produced for this conference on the importance of our field and of the IUSSP. This video takes about 12 minutes and is called When Demographers Unite. If you like it, I'd like to invite you to consider posting it on your social media. The link is available on the homepage of the IUSSP website. And after this is over, I'll quickly close this session and invite everyone to meet up at GatherTown. So go ahead if you could please present the video now.
COVID was a blast everywhere. The need for good quality data was apparent during this COVID pandemic, and we as demographers are contributing to face this massive challenge by putting together databases and measuring precisely its impact. If I decide to become a demographer, it is because of the importance of good quality data for the scientific study of human populations.
It may surprise you, but in my country, people do care about climate change. As a demographer, I feel very concerned about it. I know much about the great impacts people will live with at all levels, including any neighborhoods, but certainly impoverished communities will suffer much more. For me, demography is about learning from the past and the present to conceive a more sustainable and equitable future.
Did you know that the past century has witnessed impressive improvements in human welfare and across many different dimensions? Despite these extraordinary improvements, these changes are not happening uniformly across the world. For example, sub-Saharan Africa remains at least 10 years behind other regions with respect to life expectancy, and 98% of all child deaths are happening in low and middle-income countries. Yes, poverty rates have been falling, but they remain unacceptably high in places like sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia. And when you combine the situation with climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic, these inequalities in economic and welfare outcomes could be deepened. Now, no one should be left behind.
The IUSSP is the worldwide network of population experts. We come from many different backgrounds. These can include demography, sociology, economics, statistics, public health, and geography. We are indeed open to people from all different disciplines, bound together by our shared passion for the study of population dynamics. The work of technical demographers is grounded in their deep understanding of the complex interlinkages between population flows, these are fertility, mortality, and migration, population structures by age and sex, and population sizes across time and space. They place great value on the careful collection, validation, and then integration of data from different sources, which provides the evidence base for policy.
My task today is to highlight a few issues that are of special interest to the wider public and to policymakers. The first of these is population aging in countries with very low fertility. The main problem here is that the rising old age dependency ratio is bankrupting health and pension systems. This figure plots the number of retirees per worker. A serious concern is that this number is expected to rise to near one, that is fully one retiree per worker, by 2050, in a number of countries, including Spain, Poland, France, and Italy. Clearly, politically unpopular adjustments are needed to make health and pension systems sustainable.
Rise in population aging is unmatched in human history. While the share of elderly is higher in the global north, the countries in the global south are following this demographic transition and actually accounts for a higher number of elderly. In my own country, India, around 10% of the population is above age 60 and accounts for 139 million people.
Population vulnerabilities are likely to get worse under the climate crisis. To face the climate emergency, which is already here, demographers can make a lot of impactful contributions. In line with international efforts to keep the global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees. First, we can help improve the understanding of the impact of population dynamics and human activities on the climate. Second, demographic analysis and population projections can also contribute to understanding how different future climate change scenarios will affect the natural world and human. And we should pay a particular attention to the issue of inequalities and those left behind.
¿Cuáles son los avances recientes de la demografía en temas de género? Muchos. ¿Qué sabríamos hoy de la caída de la fecundidad a niveles tan bajos si no fuera por el lente puesto por la demografía en la rigidez de los contratos de género, en lo mucho que han cambiado las mujeres y en lo poco que han cambiado los varones en el hogar? ¿Qué sabríamos de la importancia de las cadenas de cuidado en la migración femenina si no hubiéramos analizado sus redes familiares?
The next important issue is rapid population growth in Africa. Its population expected to increase from 1 to 4 billion. That's an addition of 3 billion by 2100. This growth will make it very difficult to improve living standards in the world's poorest continent. The flow of international migrants and refugees is rising rapidly. The number of forcefully displaced people has doubled since 2010 and now stands at 82 million worldwide. Receiving countries in North America and Europe are increasingly reluctant to absorb these newcomers. Political opposition is growing everywhere.
The COVID-19 pandemic has powerfully illuminated the importance of demography as a scientific discipline. Demographic factors such as age, sex, household structure, and socioeconomic status have been key to recognizing the unequal impacts of the pandemic. However, the pandemic has also highlighted the gaps in demographic data infrastructures that still persist. For example, the lack of vital registration systems in many parts of the world mean that the true death tolls of the pandemic have not been fully documented. The pandemic serves as an urgent call that to better confront global challenges and close inequalities, we need to invest in high quality and sustainable data infrastructures.
This graph shows the proportion of national income going to the top 10% of earners. The most unequal regions are India, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America, where this proportion exceeds 50%. These trends are morally objectionable and have adverse social, economic, and political effects.
The IUSSP Secretariat provides support to IUSSP panels to organize seminars, webinars, and training activities around the world. When we have funding, we offer support for travel to IUSSP members who are from low-income countries so that everyone can participate in these activities. These are a great way to build lasting working relationships with researchers from around the world and make new friends.
IUSSP creates avenues that enable the exchange of ideas between researchers around the globe. For early career researchers like me, the IUSSP provides spaces for connection, networking, and belonging. Through its mentorship and training programs, IUSSP provides a wide range of opportunities for engagement and leadership.
What is digital demography? It's the use of digital data, the data we all live when we go around in the world, when we travel, when we do anything now for demographic purposes. We have to reflect upon two things in terms of innovation. First of all, these data were not built for the study of population, but they can be used for the study of population. This, however, has been the history of demography, repurposing data that were built for something else in order to understand population change. The second thing is that the presence of digital data implies that our world has changed. There's a before and after digitalization in terms of demographic behavior.
IUSSP is a very active community. We have lots of activities, such as conferences, webinars, seminars, training sessions, debates, and all activities are organized by and for our members. Our scientific panels cover a wide range of population topics. They consist of world-leading experts and are joined by junior colleagues. In addition, we have an early career task force to boost the inputs of the next generation of population experts in our work. So join us and get involved, and together we'll build a better discipline.
What we have shown gives a glimpse of why demography matters. Our field has contributed hugely to generating the evidence base for informed decision-making. It addresses the most critical challenges facing our world. The IUSSP's diverse membership has demonstrated that demographers count. Help us strengthen our network. Members, join in our activities, and non-members, do join us. We can make a difference.
Thank you. That was a very nice video. I want to admit it just came out, I think, a week ago, so we were very pleased when we saw it. I also want to just repeat, please share this video widely. There is a version on the IUSSP homepage website, and that one has subtitles in both English and in French if you click on the CC button on the right. Okay, I think we've reached the end of this session. It gives me real pleasure to announce that after this intense week of conference activities and Zoom sessions, the 2021 International Population Conference is now nearly closed. Because of difficulties you've certainly seen in juggling time zone differences, there are 3 remaining sessions that will start in about 30-45 minutes. In any case, I want to thank very much everyone here for participating in this event. And until we meet again, perhaps in Brisbane beside the Coral Sea. And for those of you who want to continue discussions, socializing, please feel free to meet up with us at GatherTown. You go to any poster presentation on the website and click to enter GatherTown, and we will see you there in a few minutes if you're interested. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.